Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Set Violin. Today we have two very special guests, one of whom you already know, Roomie is back, Joel.
What's up?
Hello. And then we also have Jonas.
The underdog.
He is the brain behind everything I do. If there's anything that seems complicated, usually Jonas did it. We put my face on it, deep fake my face onto it, basically.
That explains the glasses now as well.
We do have very similar glasses now that I think of it.
Yeah, no, actually I disagree. I don't. They're quite different.
Oh. Why do you even have two?
That's alpha energy. You might be wondering, why are there two pop musicians on the classical channel?
Gross.
Well, that's because today we'll be having a juicy debate. The topic of today's video is, can classical and pop musicians see eye to eye? Or in our case, glasses to glasses.
And the answer is no. Skip to the end of the video.
Basically what's going to happen is we have these prompts, juicy prompts. The pop musician team is going to agree or disagree. A classical musician team will also agree or disagree. And then we're going to debate afterwards to see why we agree and why we disagree. And really it's up to you guys to decide who's more convincing. And yeah, I think we can start from there.
Just to start it off, kind of nice and easy. Well, for us, I don't know for you guys. The first statement is, I genuinely enjoy listening to classical music. I hate classical music, man.
I so disagree.
Yeah, just all that practice has traumatized me. I can't even listen anymore. No. I think that one's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
I love
agree.
listening to classical music.
Yep.
I think one of the really cool things with classical music is that there's such a wide variety, right? Like I think when you look at pop music, actually I don't know the proper I don't know the proper definition of pop music, but I'm guessing like historically there's only like, I don't know, 50 years, 70 years of history. But look, like classical music, not even counting Renaissance, there's 400 years over so many different cultures. And so you have things from Bach all the way to like a massive romantic German symphony. And it also feels timeless. Like the same piece of classical music, I can listen like 5 years after I first found out and it'll still be amazing. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I agree because I like it. Easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in general I agree with it. As you say, it's so varied. There is some classical music I have a hard time with. I think the very operatic singing stuff, you know, that sort of thing, a little bit harder to deal with. I think the type of classical music I mainly listen to is something that you guys would maybe be like, because I like,
really?
I kind of follow on Spotify some of these relaxing classical music to listen to in the background thing. And it's very nice. I don't know, if I'm like reading or something, or if I'm doing my taxes or whatever, I don't want some pop singer to be like, what's 2 + 2? That's dangerous. So therefore I go with the classical music. I have calming classical and I have classical essentials.
Oh no.
I can already picture like the album art.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say overall I genuinely enjoy listening to it. I think it's a super broad genre. I do believe pop music is also a super broad genre, and some might even argue that, you know, classical music was the pop music of its era or whatever, especially, you know, the old stuff. But that's great. But yeah, I think I enjoy it. How about you, Jonas?
I wanted to be like, yeah, you know, it's beautiful, whatever. But I mean, I then ask myself, do I listen to it ever? And the answer is only in blockbuster movies as background.
Oh, man.
Do you guys even consider that classical music when it's like the
Blockbuster.
background music in like a Marvel movie or something?
Just to make sure it's actual classical music and not like just
Cinematic.
Hans Zimmer and you thought
yeah.
that was classical.
Didn't you make a video on Zimmer just like stealing stuff from classical music? Isn't that just classical music then? If it's just rip off classical music.
Oh no.
Talk about it as a genre, surely.
Oh.
I'm starting to feel like the tension in my back building up.
The thing is, yes, on paper, you can say like, oh, there's a mood for everything, even in classical music, you know, happy, angry, sad, or whatever. But I still just feel like it all ends up being just kind of calming and like chill. I mean, where's the classical music that makes you go like groove? Does that exist?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's heaps. There's heaps.
Well, I haven't heard it, so I'm gonna say it doesn't. No, honestly, I don't listen to it. I mean, I guess in theory I get it, but I have no playlists. My deep focus
Man, we
playlists are
gotta send you some
non-classical. They're
stuff.
just modern sounds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotta send
we're
you
gonna,
some
after
stuff.
this video, we're gonna like send you weekly updates and recommendations.
Like, I'm pretty sure Shostakovich, just to give you some context, like this USSR Soviet composer, under Stalin oppression.
Yeah, he's
His
got
music is not calming and chill.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
like we're getting bombed in Leningrad vibes type of thing. So
It's horrific.
there's definitely
It's so
things
bad.
that are not chill.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to that.
It seems like for you guys, classical music just seems very calming. Though.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I'm getting right now.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I enjoy the calming classical music. I think I struggle more with. I mean, I have heard like a lot of modern stuff, like a lot of the 12-tone, super advanced classical music. There's jazz music that's very similar. That's like very just. There's no particular scale. It's like things that are on the edge of being music or not music. Though it's like, oh yeah, there's no key. This is in 13/16.
Yeah,
But
I
you
don't
guys
know if
love
I
that.
genuinely enjoy listening
Yeah,
to
no, I'm not sure
Schoenberg
about that
either.
either. I played a few of those. They're pretty intense.
I feel like those pieces are more thought-provoking.
Could you say that maybe the classical music you guys listen to is a little bit like the pop music of classical music?
Possibly some. I would say not all. For example, going back to Shostakovich, his Waltz
Oh, yes,
Number
of
2
course.
would be an example of him writing pop music of the times that do 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 like some saxophone waltz. You contrast that with his Symphony Number 4, where he was trying to express something about the anguish of the times he's lived. And it's very clear. One of them was written to be popular and be consumed, whereas the other one was like he was trying to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And it's probably not black and white as well, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's
you know,
true.
with Bach, sometimes it was like he was commissioned to write something by the prince over that time. Like, does that really count as pop music? It's not meant to be consumed. It's just some prince told him to
So
write
the
a
rich
particular
person,
thing,
it's like,
right?
please write something by this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, I know a lot of classical music was, commissions and stuff like that. If we talk about commercialization, like, is there something more commercial than doing something because someone's like, hey, write me a thing right now, I want it on Tuesday? That's almost more commercial than writing a pop song that you release yourself.
That depends how you define pop music, right? I was defining it not by it being commercial, but by it meant to have popular mainstream appeal.
But I mean, when you're doing the commission as a classical writer and you're doing the music for, like, the king or whatever for his ball, surely the aim is for that song to be popular among the people listening.
At least it's like for the king, right? It's like very, very niche popular. It's like, hey,
Niche
I
pop.
hope you like
That's
this.
a new thing, yeah. Niche pop.
I put cannons in it for you. And he sings, "Oh King Augustus, you're the sexy beast." I didn't mean to say that classical music is pop music. What I meant was, like, I think one of the typical criticisms of pop music is that it is commercial or that it's like just made for money or whatever. So then it becomes a little bit ironic that a lot of the classical pieces were made for money for like a king or whoever commissioned it. So they may be closer than you may think sometimes.
Ooh.
I also think, because you were mentioning, right, that as opposed to us dirty popsters,
We
I
didn't
didn't
say
say
that
that.
as well. They're putting words in our mouth.
No, we are dirty. That was meant. We're saying it.
No, but like you have classical musicians leaving behind a legacy and such. But I feel like you have to look at like the starting point and stuff. Like, yeah, surely a lot of pop songwriters and artists, they start off trying to, make it become popular. Just like I imagine that classical musicians probably try to, make it, get people to buy their services. But then once you've actually established yourself, say the Beatles, I don't think that all their songs were written just for them to be popular. Surely some of the songs were like them leaving something behind, but that was pop.
No, that's
And
fair.
that's something,
fair.
that we see today, like the legacy of those songwriters.
We're going off topic.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like
Alright,
we
next
let's go back to
question.
the topic.
Let's just move on.
Yeah, I genuinely enjoy listening to pop music.
Jonas?
I do. Here's the thing, right? I feel like there's two levels of liking pop. You have the surface levels, like, yeah, it's written to be catchy, it's easy to just get in your brain, and then you're just like, ooh, singing along, and, it's easy to take in. But I feel like after writing pop music and stuff myself, it also opens up a second level of appreciation where you can listen to it and you're like, wow, they did such a good job with that thing. It's so clean, it's so catchy, it's so well produced. I almost look at it as this puzzle. And I admire how with these simplistic pieces, some people can put together this amazing like puzzle without making it too complicated. And I think that's a skill in itself. And I enjoy that when I listen to what I think is a good pop song. I'm like, wow, this is so well put together.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. I do enjoy listening to pop music genuinely. I didn't always, there was a lot of popular music I didn't like back in the day. Funny story, me and Jonas actually met each other at a kind of like elite songwriting school up in the north of Sweden. Crazy place, and we'd write for artists, and then like we'd have to present the pop songs to the record labels. I kind of had to learn to get into the things we were doing sometimes. So what I realized is that you can train yourself to like things. I had to learn to like the very minimalistic stuff, which is, you know, most of what is on the charts is very basic is the wrong word, but what it is minimalistic. I would say the value with pop music, and really the only thing a pop song needs, is that it needs to connect with people and be like culturally relevant. It just needs to make someone feel something really strongly or make them want to listen to the song. That is the only thing pop music really is about. Can you make something that connects?
Going back to the
Yeah,
pop,
I feel like
do
this
you-
question
do you
is
like
targeted
pop
at me
music?
now.
Do you even listen to pop music? I feel like Brett's like one of the rare people that lives today that actually doesn't know like who Doja Cat is.
No, I know Doja Cat.
Did you say
Oh, you know
Dojo Cat?
Cat?
Doja Cat. Doja Cat.
So yeah, he's like, who doesn't listen? I have to agree or disagree, right?
Yeah.
If
Do
it's-
you genuinely like
Do I
enjoy
genuinely enjoy? Let me search deep inside myself with this.
listening? Maybe existential crisis.
Yeah, I actually never asked that question, to be honest, to myself. I'm not like offended or anything by it. I'm like, oh, cool, nice. Like, it's pleasant to my ears. It's just there, it's just playing. Like, if you're playing it, or I'm like on TikTok, something's playing,
Yeah.
go to like a bar, it's playing. It's not, doesn't bother me. And in fact, it's actually kind
Or
of nice.
maybe that's just laziness because you can't be bothered to go over and ask them to turn it off. Maybe maybe you want to not listen to it, but you're just like, can't be bothered.
I want to do an experiment where Brett gets universal remote control where you can turn off any music he doesn't like around
Yeah.
him. Like at McDonald's, like you're eating your BTS meal, but they're playing BTS in the speakers. And you're like, I like the BTS nuggets, but I don't like BTS. And then you turn it off.
I actually don't know. I'd say I would enjoy it, but I just never intentionally go and turn it on. There are times when I'm with Eddie and he just plays it.
I feel like I'm getting incriminated.
No, like I enjoy it. So I actually enjoy it. So it's like,
You know what's funny? Like, I think half the music I play isn't even pop music.
yeah, that's true.
He
It's-
thinks it's pop
Yeah,
music. It's just it's not classical music. It's got some electronic stuff and he thinks it's pop music. It's not even pop music, dude.
Okay, yeah, that's
It's
true.
like
that's
lo-fi
true.
bill or something.
I'm just gonna agree so I don't get attacked by the whole world watching this. 'Cause
No, you know what I think
Well, I
is
mean, your
interesting?
audience are classical.
Yeah, okay, I'll disagree. I mean, I don't know.
You know what I do think is interesting though? Is I do feel like most people, even if they aren't into pop music, they would at least feel some incentive to learn more about it because everyone knows about it, right? It's like a social thing. It's like you're that one kid who doesn't know who Drake is in school. So I find
That's
it
so funny.
I find it funny that Brett never bothered to learn about it to fit in, you know? He just like, whatever.
Yeah,
I think
find
it's an
that funny
active
too.
choice. It must be an active choice, right, Brett? It can't be. It's like you are avoiding it. It's not only that you don't seek it out, you're
Oh.
avoiding it.
Oh,
Are you
am I avoiding it?
Oh.
Does it make you feel better than us? You think you're really cool?
No.
The alpha status.
Alpha,
toxic
I
glasses.
need, oh, wow.
I don't listen to your pleb music.
Yes. What is this? Pop music? 4 chords? Oh, was it 1 chord now?
Do you actively avoid it?
No, I don't actively avoid it.
Yeah. So when your friends in high school talk about Drake, you just kind of
I go along, I just go on, yeah, okay, nice.
While Paganini plays in your head.
Actually, sometimes I just don't ask. Because if I ask who it is, I'm just going to embarrass myself. But I know it's popular because I've heard it like everywhere. You actually can have this back, I can't see. But I know like, I hear it everywhere, so I'm like, oh, that's a popular pop music.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of those ones.
I'm hearing like a tender insecurity here, like a little boy afraid of like
Yes,
calling out the
I'm
wrong
so
pop artist.
Yes, I'm scared to make my mind dirty. Gotta keep it innocent.
I know what you mean though, because once you see Jimin in a BTS music video, you can't go back.
Oh.
That
And
is
you
true.
will become a pop man. If you see him,
I have to agree with you
when he
there.
looks you deep in the eye in the Dynamite breakdown in the middle of the song,
Uh-huh.
Oh.
it's over. It's over. You are not only a pop fan, you are also not straight anymore.
Yeah. I'm
Have you
ready.
seen his serendipity dance when he does that twirl?
You will have to send me that later. I'm
Yeah.
gonna need it for research.
Yeah.
Please send it over. Thanks.
Pop music is becoming more and more repetitive recently.
No, I don't think so, actually. I feel like we're in a phase now, basically, where the definition of pop is always kind of chased, because it starts off by being whatever is popular at the time, and then when that becomes normalized and more people start to do it, you start thinking of it as like, this is the genre, this is what defines it, and then something new pops up at some point. And then that starts to become the genre again. Now, I feel like there's actually quite a lot of new things coming up now. You know, everything is like, oh, this is more indie, this is more urban mixed with pop. But eventually that's just going to be called pop as well.
Okay.
Do you agree, Joel?
It depends. Like, if we're talking melodies and stuff, a lot of the like singing rap stuff has kind of like melodies that might be just a bar that goes over and over and over, and it almost becomes a mantra. There is a lot of old stuff that is also really repetitive, so I'm not gonna say that it's getting more and more. I think what pop music is still gonna have for a really long time, and it's not going away anytime soon, is that it's very effective. And I think that effectiveness comes from there not being too much information in a pop song. And that's why you maybe can't memorize a classical piece on one listen. And I love that. I love listening to stuff that takes 10 or 15 or 20 listens to take in all the way. But it's not effective if you want to get someone to understand and like a song immediately. Music production has come a long way, and there's so many ways to kind of make something that is very repetitive still not super grating on the ears now. That's what pop music, at least now, is doing. And yes, I think that has led to people trying to explore just how little information they can put in a pop song. You're always walking the line of interest versus catchiness, and catchiness comes from not a lot going on a lot of the time. So that's the line you always need to walk with pop music. And I think recently people have sometimes gotten away with being a little bit more repetitive than they have been able to in quite some time. So yeah, I somewhat agree, but it's definitely just, it goes in cycles all the time.
I think that's really interesting though, that you said.
Interesting, catchy, right?
Yeah, so you feel like it's not so much that it's repetitive, but it's more like, by definition, to be effective and catchy, you can't have too much happening.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like 10 years ago, the stereotype was like 4 chords, but I feel like a lot of hip hop I hear these days are like 2 chords, and I've heard some with just even 1. One with like a hint of a second chord, but it's not. It's like a flavor.
Yeah, I think WAP is basically just 1 chord. There's some like implied things, but I think WAP is pretty much just 1 chord.
That's insane.
And but it's such like I think that is quite a varied like production. Like it actually like their cadences with the rapping and stuff. I don't sit there and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing's happening in this song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the video helps as well. It's a nice video. You guys did a reaction to that as well. Yeah, I also did one with an eye tracker. That was a big mistake.
From my perspective, if you look at repetition, there's a lot of repetition in classical music, right?
That's true. That's also very true. There's a lot of
You look at a Beethoven symphony, part of what makes it great is you can repeat a motive and transform it and do things with it. But really, it's still how he works with a few ideas and it's still repeated. Repetition is one key way to make something feel like a unified piece of work. And there's a stereotype as well, right? Like some classical pieces that end with like dun 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 dun. It's just end the piece already.
Yeah, they keep going. It's like boom, boom. You're like, no, it's done. They go boom.
Yeah, but I do think what you said is probably a better way of describing it. It's like the repetition in pop is more designed to strip away information, and even though there's repetition in classical music, generally there's more complexity added to that.
And to be fair, sometimes classical music, when they move away from that melody theme, it goes to something very different.
Yeah.
And then you almost can't recognize it anymore. Then somehow the composer can bring it back.
Yeah.
But again, that's quite complex in some ways. You've got to be able to follow it somehow. But I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like we're agreeing too much. I'm gonna be like, you guys are so wrong, guys.
Yeah, okay. I disagree.
Pop music requires less practice or talent than classical music. Should we start this one? And then they can...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, go for it. Classical boys.
Clearly, like, have you seen any of the great violin soloists? I'm not saying, like, pop doesn't need talent. I'm just saying classical music needs that amount of talent practice times 10. I'm just kidding. I'm done. Feel free to disagree because I also acknowledge there's a lot about.
I will not disagree. I don't feel free. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot about pop that I don't understand.
Yeah,
right?
that's
just
the same.
From my exposure, there's just nothing in pop music that is anywhere equal to playing a Paganini concerto.
Well, can I also add to that? I think it's in its rawest form. It's just you and the instrument.
I mean, there's no auto-tune.
There's nothing else helping it. Let's say we talk about skills, intonation. Now we have technology, pop music, you can use auto-tune, you can tune it, so it's actually not too difficult, right? But I know for like classical music, intonation, the amount of accuracy and the sheer time you need to put into it.
Yeah, or like projection, right?
Oh, that's another thing, yeah. That's half the battle too as well. Once you play it properly, if you can, when you can, you have to also learn how to play it properly while making sure the person at the end of the console can hear your differences between a forte and a piano and your expression.
And on top of that, I also want to add, I think there is just a higher expectation. And I don't say this in a good or bad way. I don't actually necessarily think it's good, but it's just something that I think is how it is, right? Like people already approach the classical art form with a lot more of a critical headspace. I feel like if Drake sang a note out of tune,
no one cares.
No one cares in a live concert. But in a classical concert, for better or for worse, just how it is, a lot of the audience do pick up on these things.
Yeah, it's glaringly obvious. And it's actually, for classical music, that's the amount of pressure you also have as a performing classical musician. Because all the ears are turned on.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much exposed. There's no one saving you, no one backing you up. And you better hope the hours of practice you put in paid off.
Maybe like you could argue that in pop there must be a lot of practice in writing a song. I'm sure like the production side requires a lot of practice to understand how to get a particular sound. I'm not discrediting also like great pop performers when I see them perform. They practice so much to be able to make that stage presence. I'm not denying that at all. It's really hard to compare which one is harder. But all I'm saying is, I don't know, man, Paganini is pretty damn hard.
Sounds like you guys just like punishing yourselves, essentially.
Yeah, it's weird.
It does feel a bit like we're torturing ourselves.
We're honing ourselves just to get every single note, every single musical melody, the pulling of time to make it convincing.
Jonas, you got a perspective on this?
Well, put it this way: anyone can become a world-class violinist, you know. No, but it's you can't.
I've never heard a more untrue statement than that.
No, but you can't argue that like from a technical, just pure skill standpoint, like as an instrumentalist and performer, like of course, like a classical, violinist or like instrumentalist in general, it's a whole other ball game. But I think to me, when I hear those, kind of arguments that it's like, oh, it's, anyone can do it or whatever. You guys didn't say that, but like a lot of people say like anyone can write pop or whatever. Anyone can like do that. They don't even sing. It's autotune. It's whatever. I think they're impressive in different ways because, at least from my perspective, part of what is impressive with classical music and maybe the performances is like how perfectly it's played, how technically competent you have to be able to pull it off and that kind of stuff. Whereas in pop music, at least even more now than ever, no one cares about the instrumentalists on the track who recorded the keyboard or whatever. That's not where the impressiveness for me lies. For me, it is what you were actually touching on a little bit. It's the skills in the songwriting and the skills to make something that is so catchy and so good without feeling too boring. Like Joel was, touching on that line of like how little can we put in. And to me, at least as someone that writes myself, I get so impressed with people that can like use so little instrument and just put it together in such an insanely good way. You have like infinite amounts of instruments, you have infinite amounts of things you can do, sky's your limit. I think it's really impressive in its own way. You're only allowed kind of to use this little box. There are hundreds, thousands, millions probably that are trying that never get anywhere because it is very hard. It's hard to make a really good, simple but good pop song. There's a lot of trash pop, but when it's good, to me it's just very impressive how they put it together.
So I think classical music has fallen into the same type of thing that jazz music is in, which is that it's a lot about the skills. I think jazz musicians and classical musicians are very much on the same level of like, there's very similar practicing culture and very similar, as you were saying, how like the audience is like, let's listen if someone's going to play a bad note today. I'm looking at the sheet music here in the audience. On page 38, there is a quite fast arpeggio. So let's wait for Eddie to get to that part. But I do think that a lot of people who listen to classical music either have a very strong critical interest in it or maybe even do it themselves. The point with pop music is like never to make something perfect. The skill is connecting. The performance stuff is part of connecting. The songwriting, the lyricism, the way you sing, even if it's garbage. There's so many garbage pop singers that people love and they love how it sounds. Oh, you're sounding like you're about to die, and that works really well for the music. My favorite example is My Chemical Romance, which was kind of like an emo /pop punk band like 20 years ago. Their lead singer would do live concerts and he would lose his voice after like 2 songs.
Whoa.
And I mean, that's not good. I don't think that's good. But on the albums, it just sounds amazing and people love it because like the lyricism is awesome and like it speaks directly to people. And I think that's the difference. A lot of the time, I think classical music can speak to your emotions very clearly. But like even when there is lyrics and vocals in classical music, I don't think it comes across in a casual way to the audience where they can just kind of like take it in as you can with pop music. And there are some singers who can definitely have spent as much time probably as violinists. Like you take someone like Mariah Carey or something, she is a crazy instrumentalist with her voice, right? So there is that part, but it just doesn't matter as much. I wouldn't say, and this might be controversial, but like I wouldn't say that Freddie Mercury has a voice that is as good or like feels like it's as refined as maybe a violinist that has worked forever. I wouldn't say so. He would not have ideal performances a lot when he sang live. He would be quite off key a lot of the time. However, he connected like crazy, had a crazy stage persona. People loved him. They drew crowds of, I don't know, like 40, 50,000 people because they connected. And that's what it's all about, baby. Classical music, for most people, doesn't connect as heavily if it's not like, a backtrack in a movie, which is, where most people get their classical music nowadays, I guess. If you even call that classical music. Would you?
Jonas?
That's the only form I've ever heard of. Yes, that's classical music.
Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, my favorite classical music.
Oh, you did.
I mean, I think that's really valid, the point you guys came out. It's a different focus. I just think it's funny though that it completely didn't answer the question of which one requires more talent.
Yeah.
No, I think you need the talent to connect for pop, and I think you need instrumental talent to do classical music well.
Yeah, but which one's more?
Yeah, that's
practice?
what I was meant as well. They are like different talents.
What do you mean more practice? It depends. Like, what do you think is practice for connecting? For example, part of being a pop artist that can connect is probably living a life that people can relate to, so you can write about it, which means you probably shouldn't practice 14 hours a day. You need to be part of the culture to speak to the culture, right?
They just don't want to admit that classical music needs more practice. So they're just spinning the definition of practice.
If you mean practicing the instrument, sure.
Yeah.
You need to spend more hours practicing.
Fine. Oh, agree to leave it at that.
Yeah.
The best pop producers in the world, they've spent an ungodly amount of hours in their studios refining their craft.
That's true.
So it's depends on how you look at it.
This one's juicy.
Oh.
Succeeding in music is easier for pop musicians.
Yes, no question about it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? There's a bigger audience, as well, and there's
really.
more jobs. What are you talking
There's more
about?
competition too.
Well, how are we defining succeeding?
Or just make a successful
Like
career out of it.
making a career, like living from it, type of thing.
I still think pop music is probably easier. It is an interesting question. There's just way less people, I think, trying to do the classical music thing.
But I guess it depends if you're talking about composers or not. I don't know much about it, but I can imagine like if you want to be an instrumentalist, you play classic music, you practice, as long as you're good enough, you might get a job in an orchestra and you might get paid. At least I'm imagining kind of that's how it could go down. Whereas I guess in the pop world, you could be extremely skilled, but in the end, you never reach out to anyone. No one signs you. You don't sell any songs, anything. So I don't know, percentage-wise, the people that go out to try and, live off classical music as performers versus like pop people, maybe it is easier. But I mean, if you're talking about being a composer, I can only imagine that it's easier being a pop composer than a classical composer today. That I'm guessing.
I got an idea that might people might hate me for this. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, let me say this because this is kind of interesting. Okay, so my thought is this: to some extent, there's so many classical orchestras, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they play other people's music. So in a way, if we're gonna equal it all, then we should count all the people who play cover bands.
Oh yeah.
Pop music cover bands, which means that there's a lot of pop music cover bands and also backing bands for pop artists. Or if we do that, I think it's feasible to earn your living if you want to, playing like as a cover band at a ski resort in
That's true.
northern
Okay.
That's true.
Canada.
Doing a gig.
Gigs out there playing people, stuff people know.
Yeah, playing for drunk people, there's not at all the same skill level required. I think there's more terrible jobs, like really terrible jobs to play pop music for people.
To be honest, I never thought about this question until right now. I was surprised you guys would say it is easier to succeed. I thought you guys would be like, nah, pop music's
That's so
harder,
hard,
man.
man.
You gotta connect. That's so much harder. There's so much competition.
How do you practice connecting, bro?
If you look at the highest level of success, pop music is clearly a lot more fruitful and high than, say, the most successful classical musician.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, I guess on the other hand, there's just so much competition. Like every second kid on TikTok, I feel like, wants to be a pop star.
It feels like you'd have to do like a scientific study or something. Like I really
Yeah, you would
can't...
need to have statistics on this, basically.
Guys, where's the research you made for this video? What are your team doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
come on,
come on,
Where's
guys.
the raw data?
Where are the statistics? Research.
But put it this way, how many people do you know that wants to become classical musician, but they fail? They never make any money out of it. Like,
Yeah,
would you
a
say
lot.
that
A
that's
lot.
most of them?
That's true. A lot.
That's most of them.
I think like 90. A lot, actually. A lot.
Okay, I mean, if we look at our friends that went to university, I'd say 50% of them switched out, at least. I don't know, I'm just roughly gauging. And a big chunk in the remaining, I think, going to teaching. So it's still music related, but they're not performing as a career. And then the rest is kind of like gig or orchestra musicians. And only the very few get to actually make a living, like touring and being a performer and selling albums and things like that.
Very low. It's very low.
I mean, is that the same with pop? Like a lot of people quit, or?
A lot of people that I know, at least, don't like really make it in the sense that what they imagined, what they wanted. Like, a lot of them manage somehow to get some kind of income, but it can be like producing royalty-free music for some library, producing some whatever thing for an artist they don't care about. Very, 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 very few has like reached the career where they are like doing what they wanted to do, essentially making songs with relevant big artists that end up, on radio and connecting with people. It sounds kind of similar then, I guess. It sounds, because I was maybe naively, I was imagining that if you just practice and you technically become good enough, anyone can eventually get some kind of job in an orchestra then. But I guess it's actually really, really hard.
It is very
Where's
hard.
the funding coming from the orchestras? Is it generally only ticket money? In Sweden, where we're from, there's a lot of like kind of grants from the government that kind of pay the salaries of the musicians. Is that kind of like what it's like in Australia?
Yeah, it's grants and sponsorships. Ticket sales don't cover for much, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think when we researched into this 5 years ago, we kickstarted our first world tour actually, because we're looking at ways to fund it. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We did this thing where we did a live stream where we're gonna play on the streets and sleep on the streets non-stop until we hit our funding goal, and it was messed up.
Yeah.
I think I lost like 5 years of my lifespan in those 5 days.
Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
sleep for
God.
like
Wow.
ages.
Yeah, but one of the really mind-blowing statistics we saw then was like in Australia, ticket costs cover about 20% of the operational expenses of an orchestra. About half was
Private,
government and
half,
half
yeah.
was private sponsorships, donors. Like we have friends in orchestra, and part of their job is to call the private sponsors and just talk to them, because that's how important they are to keep these orchestras running.
So basically running like a Patreon.
Yeah, it kind of is actually.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of that pop music stuff. There's not a lot of grants. There's like you can win like awards, but there's not a lot of running grants. There is for jazz musicians. I think any genre with like a long-standing history that doesn't have a big audience anymore. Like if they feel like they want to keep it, then they will kind of like start grant stuff. So I have a friend who works in a jazz orchestra. It's all grants. Like they tour all over Europe. Everyone there is just happy to have a steady job, especially with jazz. You know, it's a lot of like older people. I don't know what it's like with classical music. How many like 16-year-olds are there in the audience? Maybe there is a lot.
Funnily enough, in our concerts there are a lot, but in the typical
Oh,
classical
yeah.
concerts, mainly older, like 40s plus, and like the younger kids you see, you know, they're learning an instrument type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are doing something really important. You guys are like revitalizing classical music for a new generation. You're like,
Yes.
yeah, I think you guys should be really happy about that. I think it's like a big thing you're doing. Awesome that there's a lot of young people at your concerts. I'm really happy to like hear that. You know, you
Yeah.
got an awesome community. It's sick. It's sick. Like
Thanks, man.
you guys are really killing it.
Appreciate
And,
it.
you
It's
know-
great hearing that from you too.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
For sure. Like I've thought about that. I'm like, holy shit, that's so cool that you've been able to do that because like that's not easy to do. Like you did something that would feel impossible. I would not have any confidence at all starting out revitalizing something for a younger demographic. So you guys are fucking doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpha energy. Got a bit of that. I guess that wraps up for the video.
Now that we're educated about pop music, we can
Yeah.
wrap things up. Oh, that's so bad. Thanks again to Joel, Roomie, and Jonas for joining us in this video. And I don't know, is there anything you guys want to say before we go back to practicing? Because
Yeah.
we need to practice connecting.
No, I mean, thanks for having me on. As someone who didn't make it as a pop musician, check out my animation YouTube channel, Jonas Frisco.
That's what I like to hear. And yes, I have a YouTube channel called Roomie Official. I don't upload right now, but I will soon. Yes, working on a very large video. It's full of large things. I don't know. I was trying to make a joke, but it's very late.
Thanks for watching. Go check out both their channels, link in description, and see you next time.
Bye bye.